Alright, guys. Demo time. Questions and answers, yo. Someone wrote down a long question. Let me go ahead and grab that and put it over here. We talked about in a previous class how we might think some things are cool and others might not at all. How do we know what's cool before showing it to others? Example, I have picked out 4 designs, but I don't know if they are the best ones to choose. I guess my question is, how do you train your mind to think objectively about what's cool? It's a good question, Brandon. So you have the fortunate ability that you have peers. You have people in your class that can look at your work and give you some feedback on. Okay, and I would highly recommend you taking that seriously. You know, a lot of times people just shoot from the hip, and I'm saying you don't have to. You can just ask people like, what do you think is better? And what you can do on a larger scale, like how do you improve your sensibility of this? Well, you just kind of constantly observe everything. And this has a lot to do with movies, video games, and how people approach each and every one of these types of platforms. So let's take a look at video games, for instance. Um, Video games people play, and regardless of whether it looks good or not, people play because it's actually a fun game or fun experiences. Do you understand? The appearance of the game looking really good is not necessarily as powerful as if the game's any fun. And this is something that I observed from just obviously playing games. I remember I used to want to get the Ghost Recon games, and I would get them and I would play them and I'd be like, completely bored. And then I'd get games that have like the most like questionable visual, fidelity, and love them. A good example would be like Nidhogg. Have you ever played Nidhogg or heard of Nidhogg?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But it looks so shitty, right? And that's kind of what makes it amazing too, is like how bad it looks. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. You understand? Like it's not
Yeah.
necessarily visuals that make games games. And that's what I realized. Like Tetris is like one of the greatest games, and all it is just blocks falling from the sky. Mario Brothers is one of the most beloved franchises, and it has no real strength and theme. It's just this. It's just so embedded in our culture, or embedded in our culture that we're used to that. Um, so that's why I get kind of caught up when people start to say there's no story in this game. Well, like I don't think people generally want story in their games. In fact, when you play games that have a lot of great story, usually the sentiment is that the game's driving force is the story. You know?
Yeah, once that story's over, you don't have anything
Yeah, you
else.
just stop playing it. Like Uncharted is a great example of that. Like I play
Yeah, I was
Uncharted.
thinking of Naughty Dog, period.
Yeah, Uncharted is great, and it's not because it has like the best shooting mechanics or puzzle solving or gameplay. It's just the sheer immersion that they got. Like you really feel like you're these characters and you're on this adventure, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what they did, and that's what they did well. That's why people love those games. And it feels very serial too, because you're just like on this adventure, and once you finish one series of quests, it's like, and next time on Uncharted, like you kind of have that vibe going on, and you're like, well, I got to find out what happens next, and just keep playing,
Hmm.
you know? And then you have games that can marry the two, like you have a game like Portal, where they introduce the story in the midst of the in the game, and it's really good. It's really clever. Um, but getting back to kind of the setting, like so the whole point of what I was bringing that up is to demonstrate, people uh, get misguided on what they think makes something good. So let's go back to visuals. Like think about like movies, right? So people will look at a movie and think to themselves, um, oh, I just realized something. Yeah, that actually would be better. Anyway, sorry. They all watching movies, right? and they, they like complain about like the nostrils, for instance, on the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, they're ruining my childhood. My childhood. And I was like, no, no, they're not. You've already had your childhood. Your parents might have ruined your childhood, but not this movie. You know?
Yeah.
Like it's a nostalgia that's guiding that feedback, not reality. And that's something that you should pay attention to. Because, for instance, I love Ninja Turtles and I love Transformers, like the old cartoon shows. Like, so I get why
Yeah.
people are tripping out. I get it. Because they have a certain standard and they want it to look a certain way. And these are specifically like the nerdiest of nerds, the most elitist of elite. These people are like you and I, people who have privileges in this world that most people don't. And also, we are artists, so we have another layer of just bullshit that we have to get past. Okay?
Yeah.
Because when I was just a civilian, not an artist, right? I actually had to I actually would go watch a movie just because I wanted to watch it. And I'd leave the movie. Either that movie was cool or awesome or epic, or that movie sucked. And that was it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, well, let me explain to you why the movie sucked. It was none of that. It was just
Or like
like,
color combos and
yeah, it was just like I watched it, I either liked it or I didn't. And a lot of that changed when I became an artist. I started getting that filter of like, well, oh my gosh, why would they ever do that? Oh man, like they're looking out there telling the story. What fucking amateurs, right? Just
yeah.
getting really, really pretentious. And I started noticing that. I was like, wait a minute. And I discovered on a few occasions that I was mostly wrong about these types of ideas. All right, thank you, Alyssa. I'll check it after I finish this question. You see, the problem that I was running into, the problem that I was running into was this idea of what I thought was good and thinking that I knew better because I had some sort of skill in the arts. But the reality was that no, I was being pretentious. Like I don't, I've come to the realization that if you don't have a lot of experience in whatever it is that you're trying to engage in, then you got to respect that you might not be as well versed or educated as you might suspect. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. I started thinking like, yeah, you know, I went and watched Transformers and I loved it, right? But then all of my friends and colleagues were just like, that movie is awful. Like I can't believe they ruined their childhood and stuff like these types of things. And I'm like, what? And even like recently, someone posted like this kind of meme of like the new ones should not be worse than the originals, and it's like showing Power Rangers, shows the Beauty and the Beast, Teacup, and Ninja Turtle. And I actually only agreed with one of them, which was the Teacup or the T. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I actually think that was probably the worst redesign. It just didn't look good at all. It has nothing to do with if it looks different. It just doesn't. It didn't make any sense to me either. I was like, yeah, that does kind of look kind of weird and cheesy, but it's fine. The Power Rangers I've been indifferent about. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the Power Rangers. I do agree that the original Power Ranger designs are still pretty fucking cool. Like they are actually. I was watching yesterday with my kids, and I was like, this is like really good. Like this is really well designed. Even like the monsters were like really cool, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And that's kind of the point I want to make is that I realize I might have been wrong about like what I think is good or not. And so what you got to do is just stay objective, right? So just think about it. Like you can have an opinion though and say I don't like the new Ninja Turtles. That's fine. But then you can't at the same time ignore why did those movies do so well? Why is there like Fast and the Furious 17 coming out?
Yeah.
Like why is it if these movies are so awful and people are just, you know, watching these terrible movies, then why do they keep doing so well? Well, it's because there is something about them that people do love. And you have to understand what that is. And if you can understand what that is, and then you put some heart into put some really good storytelling and cinematography and acting, right? If you start putting that to that standard, like if you start finding things, I'll do, I'm gonna do a unsuspecting gender switch. Who is this person? Um,
Liberals America.
did you see that meme that
That's
someone?
so fucking stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
man.
liberals
Fuck those
America.
guys.
Yeah, liberals America, and it had like a transgender sitting next
And then a
to
Muslim
a
woman.
Muslim woman, and so like this is the American
And
liberals
everybody
want.
was like, yeah, that's what we want. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And I loved it. One of the comments that I saw that I liked was that someone was like, what's wrong? Like there's just two people sitting minding their own business on a subway." It's because like these far right people are just like they don't they don't want
They
diversity
have
at
a
all.
stroke when they see that shit.
Yeah, and let's be clear, I have a lot of friends who are conservative thinkers, and they don't speak for those people, those far
Yeah,
right
no.
people. There's
That's like
definitely an
10%.
extreme
Like,
right community, and there's an extreme left community. And let me give you examples of people on the left. Before I do that, let me finish my question answering. The point I'm trying to make is that um, I stopped looking at movie reviews. I stopped kind of paying attention to my friends' opinions. Not that I ignore them and I don't think that they have some valid arguments. I listen to them, but I'll just kind of reconsider that maybe it's not law, if that makes sense. And then I would go and actually see how the movie did. Like I would go to Box Office Mojo and I would go and it did really well. And I asked myself why? Why did it do so well? And that's one way to start gauging what actually is uh, exciting to other people. Okay. And then what I also discovered is another good tactic is when you post stuff on like social media, there's like an opportunity for people to like your stuff, and you can just gauge on what people were more interested in, you know?
yeah,
And you just say, oh, and as long as you're drawing things that you like, you can start to see whether people like it or not.
yeah,
And when that happens, then you can, be like, oh, well, um, I guess this thing that I thought was cool, not too many other people think is cool at all, right?
yeah.
And so you just kind of gauge it in this way, in this fashion.
Start
You
to
know,
learn.
you start to learn about your own work and your own quality of work, and you start to learn about what it is that people like about your work. For instance, a lot of people like my work for two reasons, really, um, is because of the quality.
Composition.
Well, not so much that, it's the quality. Like it's like how the basically the effectiveness of how I paint. Like it seemed
hmm
very effortless to me. And then the bizarreness of it. If I do really bizarre and well executed paintings, they do the best. And I don't always do really bizarre paintings, and I don't always do
Like
well
your
executed
monsters and
paintings.
stuff.
Huh?
Like your monsters and stuff. Is
Yeah.
what you're talking
But even like my
about.
robots, like as long as they're bizarre and well executed, then people are really into them. Or at least that's the following that I have acquired over the many years, you know?
Yeah.
And why people like my education practices, a few reasons why is one is because it feels relatable, right? And seems practical. People like the practical sensibilities of my education, and then they also like uh, how relatable it is. It seems like it's approachable, and this is why my tutorials do really well, right? And so, and this is why people join my classes. It's almost every time I do a stream, right? If I do a stream and people hear me talk, I sell classes. So it's almost immediate. It's insane how reliable that is, right? And so
Yeah.
usually if my classes aren't selling, I just do a stream or two and then bam, they sell out. Wait, hold on just a second. You need to use the potty, sweetheart? You gotta go water or chocolate? Ew. Ew. That is yucky. Yeah. I love you too, boo-boo. Thank you for the hug. I'm teaching still, okay? Go watch TV. I'll come out there and play with you guys for a little bit. Hey, careful, son. All right. Hold on a sec. My wife stepped out for a second, so I have to wipe my daughter's booty right now. All right.
You're good, man.
One more.
Stay.
Turn on the light and close the doors, okay, sweetie? All right, I'm back. Close the door, please. Thank you, sweetheart. And so these are ways that I think you can improve your sense of quality within your own work. Okay, it's just constantly be objectively like looking at everything else that's out there and what people react to, including to your own work. Because yeah, it's really easy to get distracted with what you think is good. And a lot of reasons why people will think that their work is good or whatever that they're working on, it has a lot to do with when you're painting, you learning something, and when you're learning something, you think that it's good, and that's kind of a distraction. It's not entirely true, right?
I think I had that problem last time.
Yeah, so it's really good to kind of put it in front of other people because they will look at it and tell you that it's garbage, right?
Yeah.
Or tell you that they love it, and you can start gauging. Like basically, this is how science works. Science gathers collects a large amount of evidence, and then they create a strong theory around that body of evidence. All right.
Oh yeah.
And so I was going to say I was going to give you guys some examples of far leftists. Like far leftists, I would say is like feminists, extreme feminists, right? Like I'm not a big fan of that word that has evolved to what it is today because it makes it seem like women are better than men.
And it's not.
It's supposed to be men and women are equal.
Equality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Absolutely. And these are the far leftists because not all feminists think this way. You know, there are true feminist groups out there that are trying to fight for equality, not for we're better. Oh, look at these men. They're misogynists. Because, you know, there's no malists or masculinists who fight for men's equal rights for things like, you know, like for instance, boys are treated like they have to be tough. They can't cry. These types of things. Right?
Yeah.
No, that should
I've
be.
actually that's a super touchy subject. Actually, brought up with somebody that I didn't know. Like, I genuinely still don't know the answer to it. Like I was talking with this girl, and she is kind of almost a super feminist. And I was telling her,
Yeah,
I was
rough.
like, you know, we don't talk about male rights, and she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, think about it. You have like all these super pro-mother states, that, you know, the mom might be a terrible person and still get like custody of the child, or,
Oh,
you know,
dude,
stuff
that's a
like
real
that. You know,
thing.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, I know it is. And then I also
yeah,
talked to her because I read this article about like, do men have the right to their own child? And I was like, I genuinely don't know the answer to it.
yeah,
Like, I don't, you know. And I was asking her, and we actually had a really nice conversation about it.
yeah. It's about equality. It's not about one person gets more than another. That's always what it should be, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you stay on that side of the equation, you'll mostly be right. Not always, but mostly, right? Because there's some issues that are more gray. And so,
And hard.
yeah, because there's like this, there's great videos of like, not great, but like videos that demonstrate where a dude will go out and like shove his girlfriend or whatever, and then people will step in like right away. But then if like a girlfriend beats the shit out of
Her boyfriend.
of her boyfriend, and everyone's just like, whatever, he's a puss. And it's kind of like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
You see people laughing and shit.
Yeah, and in the argument against, like, to rebuttal my own argument, I mean, there is more cases of the latter, of like more of like women being abused than men. So it's not like a significant problem compared to women abuse, but it's definitely is still a problem, you know? And I think if you just treat it as like women and men should not neither of them should be getting abused. Men and
People.
women should, yeah, people should not be getting it hurt. I have
People
a
can do
friend,
it.
yeah, I have a really close friend. He was conservative, and he was telling me like he's against gay marriage, but he told me, he's like, but I'm not going to go out of my way to prevent people from being married. Like, this is just against my beliefs because he's religious. But who am I to go tell them what they need to do with their bodies and what they want to do with their lives? And I was like, I
Exactly.
agree. He's like, if you came to me and asked me, do I support this? I say no. But if you were to ask me to sign a bill or whatever to make it in law, I would say no because it's not my place, you know. And he said, if I saw a group of people beating the shit out of a gay person, I would beat the shit out of those people that are beating up the gay person because
Exactly.
they're hurting somebody for no reason other than they don't agree with his beliefs, and that's wrong. And I was like, yeah, man, like, and we need more people like you who have a conservative mindset but are rational fucking people. Okay, like, it's fine. You can have these conservative, and then there is a good place for conservatism, like, this idea of competition.
Hmm.
It's a good thing, but not in all things. That's the problem that I have with both the left and the right. It's like either all or nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, man, life is a little bit more gray than that. And you have to understand and respect that. For instance, like, I want universal health care for everyone here in the States, and we could totally have it, and we could totally fucking afford it, and it would be great. It would be awesome. We have to move money around, but we can totally do it. We have, we
Yeah.
have to. And some of my conservative friends was like, "No, dude, free market, free market. We need free market, everything." And I'm like, "No, you don't. You do not want to pay for your health insurance." And I explained to them why. It's like, it's just simple economics, man. See, it's one thing if I can't pay my phone bill, right? I just don't have phone service. I'm not gonna die, right?
Yeah.
It's another thing if I can't pay my medical bills. If I can't pay my medical bills, because I'm going through some real stuff right now, right?
Yeah.
Then
I'm
I
right
can't
there with
pay
you.
for MRIs. I can't get my medication. I can't get the treatment. I can't go see the doctor. I would have to pay even more money. That's the whole reason why I pay for my insurance. This is cheaper. My surgery to remove my tumor would have been 80 grand, right?
Hmm.
And that's the pro. I would try to say to them, like, look, if you lived a healthy life all the way to your 60s and you paid, let's say, a quote unquote cheap premium, because that's what you want, right? Because you
Yeah.
want that business. You paid a cheap premium, which is, let's say it's like something similar to car insurance, like $100, $200 a month. Super cheap, get a really good service, right? Like, you get to go to see the doctor and so forth and so on, and your medication's cheap. But one day you get cancer. Let's say you're in your 60s and you get cancer. Cancer treatment doesn't cost pennies. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you were spending $100 to $200 every day of your life or not every day, for every month of your life up to you're 60, you would still not have enough money to cover the cost
Yeah, see,
of your insurance. You just wouldn't be able to. And
yeah,
unfortunately, people are more sick in America than there are in most other places, especially other developing countries. And so we have a high sick person rate, right? It's the same thing with car insurance. We have a lot of car accidents, so that's why car insurance companies will do everything in their power to not pay for the damages that you may have acquired, right? If it was not your accident, like someone ran into you, destroyed your fucking car, like made it roll down a million, like like down a hill, and like broke into a million pieces. You nearly died. You have medical bills that are costly. The car insurance company will be like, well, we only can pay for your car, and we only have a maximum cap at $20,000. So we're only going to pay for that. We'll buy you a new car. But you're like, well, what about my medical? And it's like, well, don't worry, you deal with that yourself. That's something different, bro. And then your medical company is like, well, you know,
nah. This happened in your car.
well, since we're also a business, we only can cap out at 20,000 too. So you have to pay the other 200,000, 250,000. Oh, wait, you don't have the money? Well, you should have saved it. You should have saved your money. What were you doing with all your money all those years?
As if I can intervene, you're both American, right? The other
Yeah.
guy, Brandon, you're from the States, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm from Spain, so for me it's quite a foreign concept, the idea that you have to, I mean, we have private insurance, but the difference here is like if you have private insurance, maybe you go faster to the doctor. Let's say you have like, you're going to go to the physiotherapist, right? If you go for the social security, what we call social security here, it will be maybe a longer process. But if you have a cancer, no, you have to pay shit. I mean, it's in your taxes. You go to the doctor, they send you, yeah, maybe you have, if you go for the private, you will have like a better location in the hospital. Will be a
Yeah,
private
and
hospital,
that's
will be a little
fine.
bit nicer.
Yeah.
But my mom used to work with cancer in, well, cancer related, was in an hospital, and nobody, I mean, like people from UK, we used to come to Spain because the treatments here were like, it was full cover, you know? You
Yeah.
don't have to
That's
pay
how
nothing if
that's
you
how
have
it should
cancer.
That's
be.
how it should be.
You're not
That's exactly how it should
you
be.
can't avoid some of these diseases. It's not like it's not a choice in some cases, right?
Yeah, I
Like
had
you're right. I agree with you 100%. Like if you just want to go to a nicer hospital or maybe get like quicker treatment, then yeah, if you can afford that, then you should be able to
Yeah,
pay that. That makes complete sense to me. And
yeah.
these arguments that people have is like, well, competition. Check it out. Check out how much your competition will bring down the rates if there's a free healthcare for everyone, right? That was
Yeah,
available to everybody. Like then
but
the insurance companies would have to really cut down their rates because they have to compete with something like Medicaid, right? And so it's like instead of like each other. You know what they did just recently? You guys want to hear some real fucked up shit? So there's a pharmaceutical company who sells diabetes medicine, and there's three of them. There's three of them in America.
they bought it.
And so these three companies basically said, hey, we're going to keep raising the prices to diabetes together. So there's no competition. I forgot the word for this. It's not a monopoly because
Monopoly.
there's three different
Oh,
companies. No,
yeah.
there's a different term for what this is called. It's where they work together. It's like shadow purchasing or shadow buying, or I forget what it is. It's something shadow because they do it kind of like, it doesn't seem like, it seems like more of a coincidence, right? And but they've done it like 4 times in the last decade or something like that, and it went from like a medicine that was cost like $50 to $60 to now costing up to $1,000 for diabetes
yeah, but
patients. And people
and
have
especially in the States with diabetes is like a general disease. Well, I mean, in all the Western
right.
world, diabetes is rising up like crazy, but like in the United States, pretty high. So it becomes more and more like a business. Like, well,
Well, guess what? Why we get more diabetes? We don't help you.
Because we're
We don't,
fat.
because we don't help ourselves getting healthy. There's no preventative
yeah,
medicine. There was a really cool moment that I saw in one of these protests where someone was like, "Hey, if you want to go to these other countries, you want universal health care, then you're gonna have to wait in line. You won't be able to go get an MRI if you want one." And then someone's like, "Motherfucker, I can't get an MRI right now. What are you talking about? Like, what are you saying?" And when he said that, I was like, "Oh, dude." That's so true. Because when I went to my doctor, feeling sick as I was, I said, I think I have something going on. Can I get an MRI? You know what he told me? He said, we don't do
Well,
preventative medicine. This motherfucker
That's fucking nuts.
has the nerve to tell
now
me
that
that because, and I pay $1,500 a month for my health insurance. This is for my whole
Fuck
family.
that.
And this guy told me, well, I mean, if you have the money, you can have the MRI. He literally told me this. He looked in my face and said this to my face. I obviously switched that doctor because I was like, this guy has no clue what he's talking about. And I even told him, I was like, look, let me give you an example of what you're trying to explain to me. You're saying that if I should just keep driving my car, never take it to the mechanic for checkups, and then wait for my car to have the brakes not work before I go see the doctor or see the mechanic. But don't you see that the danger in that? If my brakes don't work, I could probably die, right? And I was like, I'm trying to tell you, like, there's something wrong with me. There's clearly something wrong. And he was like, nah, you probably just need more sleep. I'm like, dude, no, you know? And
and
I,
it's a doctor, it's a private doctor basically,
yeah,
right?
and it's a doctor that I paid for. Exactly. And so,
See, that's exactly what happened to me for 6 months before I ended up having my stroke. I have a super rare form of CNS vasculitis. My brain swells, and I had a clot in one side of my brain and a bleed in the other. For 6 months leading up to everything happening, I went blind in my left eye. And
it's all
and
right.
they were like,
Pay for
oh,
it, bro.
it's
Pay for
cool.
it.
And they were like, oh, this is just,
Yeah, this
we'll
is
give you steroids. And
I'm,
then I had the stroke.
yeah,
Oh
I'm
shit.
infuriated, dude. I'm infuriated with what's going on and how delusional some people are becoming about this whole idea. Like the whole reason why we have a shady healthcare system now is because of the baby boomers. It's not because it's not any fault of their own. It's because people didn't have universal healthcare before, right? And they bought into this idea that we should have the best medicine. We should practice some private more than social, like this, like a socialist approach to healthcare, right? Oh, socialism, what? Rah! You
Yeah.
know, and what ended up happening is that these people are old now and sick, and they can't get the care that they need because the fucking money's not there. Because the government's spending all their money in wars that we don't need to fucking fight. You know, we're spending. Did you know that we spend almost a million to $2 million for every soldier that's in Iraq every
Yeah.
year
That's disgusting. We also spend like 3 times more than like the next 3 countries
on
combined.
healthcare, and yet we have
Like,
some of the
Well,
sickest people in the world. Yes, exactly.
let me tell you
Wait,
something from a friend.
before we get into this too political, I actually want to critique Alyssa so we can get back to
Okay.
questions.
Sorry.
Alyssa, yeah, and don't get me started with like the suicide rate of soldiers too that are fighting that war. Um, so these right here, Alyssa, are actually pretty great. I actually think these are pretty gnarly. I think you need to refine them more, but I get it. You're like probably hanging out at GDC, getting drunk, partying, networking. That's fine. Maybe you're not getting drunk, but you're definitely hanging out with the peeps. Have you been hanging out with a lot of you only went one day? Oh, okay. Yeah, GDC is great, man. Everybody's messaging me wishing that I was there. Uh, Next year I'll go. This year I wanted to stay home a little bit because I was traveling a lot last year. And I was just like, let's take a break for the next 6, 7 months. And also like my wife's about to have another baby, so I'm trying to be helpful, help out, be around more. So stuff like this. Yeah, thank you. Don't worry about the baby. We have money to pay for our fucking medical insurance. But let me say something. Like we have great doctors now. Like I switched my doctor after that doctor was like, yeah, you're fine. In fact, people have told me that I should go back and talk to that doctor and just be like, you motherfucker, you know? And I actually have been considering that. I actually sent a really large letter to the doctor who actually gave a damn to me. But anyway, yeah, we have the baby coming, and so I haven't been traveling. I'm not going to travel too much this year. But with that being said, I think you're good. What I want you to do is just to clean these up, and I want you to do 6 characters total for iteration. So right here you have 2, so I want you to do 4 more. Sound good? All right. All right. So continue. Continue with what you're going to say about medical stuff. I forget who was talking at the moment. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Oh, I where I was going with that story and how we were talking about like the whole free health. Well, my parents are like super Trump supporters. Like,
Oh, where do you
it's
live?
disgusting. I'm in Georgia. Right
Oh,
now.
dude, the guy that I argue
But
with
I'm
all the
from
time is
Ohio.
also from Georgia.
I hate. Oh yeah, I know exactly. I removed him. I like him as a person, but I was so tired of seeing his Trump shit. That William Brett Marchand dude.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
stop. You have to keep arguing with him. Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
love him, but God.
yeah.
But anyway, like with all the shit that happened to me, I am one of 52 people in America that's had this disease. I'm also the youngest, and I'm the longest one to live, and they think that I'm fine. So I got lucky on that. But with all that being said, I was like a $500,000 child. This happened when I was 16. And so I was talking to my parents about healthcare, and they were like, oh, these, you got to pay for it. And I was like, Mom, do you not understand? I will not be able to get health insurance. She was like, why? I was like, my pre-existing condition. She was like, oh, no, you'll be fine. I was like, no, I
You
won't.
know what, though? You know what?
No, I won't.
Let me tell you something. Nothing converts a person more than when it affects them. So when this truly happens to you, your parents will stop supporting Trump.
Yeah, I know.
Because
I can't.
you're their child and they love you and they're not going to put their love for you above their political views, you know? And so
Yeah.
this is true for a lot of, like I have a friend who's gay and he came out to his parents and he was afraid because they're really conservative too. And they did react kind of unfavorably about it, but they, at the end were just like, we love you regardless, right? Which was
Yeah.
great to hear. Um, but like, what I want to make a point of is that one day his mom was hanging out with her friends who are also relatively conservative, moderately conservative. They're not super conservative. You can only be so conservative here in California. There's very few super hardcore Californians that are really conservative. Most are moderate, meaning that you can persuade them if you can just give them enough evidence.
Evidence,
Yeah,
facts.
yeah. Like my friend, I'll talk about one of my friends who was really moderately conservative, but now he's just like, you know what? That does make fucking sense. Like, what the hell? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna look into this. Anywho, I wanted to finish the story where he basically went and talked to his mom and his mom and dad about it, and then his mom was hanging out with her friends, and they were talking about because gay marriage is being voted on here in America or here in California, and they were like, oh, I can't believe they're going to let this happen. Like gay people is like a abomination. They were like going off and on like about how like it's just not like the way of life, etc. Right?
Yeah.
And then she was listening in all this, and usually she would probably be like participating in this, but this is like now she's on the other side of the equation, right?
Like, oh shit.
And she's like, wait, they're talking about my son that he's like an abomination, you know? And then she flipped out, obviously, right? She's like, you guys need to like stop your bigotry, basically. She's like, don't you understand, little, so like whatever his name was? I'm not gonna give his name, right? I'm just gonna call him Little Chichito. That doesn't mean anything. Little Chichito. Yeah, Little Chichito. Yeah, they're Spanish. And it's like, Little Chichito. He's like, this is the boy that you helped me raise, and he went to your guys' son's birthday parties, and you guys came to his, and like, she basically like was like, there's someone in your life that's gay, basically.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh shit, then they were like, they luckily they also were kind of moderately conservative, so they're just like, oh my gosh, like what were we saying, like you're right, like that is terrible, we had no idea.
At least they can understand it.
Yeah, but it didn't affect them before, so they can easily, it's the others, right?
Yeah.
It's this whole the others type of thing. And I've been around the world and I've met a lot of different people and artists. There is no the others. Even the most despicable and most evilest groups of people like ISIS, they're just falling in this trap of just perpetual propaganda and lies that just lead them to a really hardcore stance that is clearly wrong, right? And some of these people can and have been reformed, because some of these people aren't insane and crazy people. These people were like born in poverty. When countries like ours say, no, you can't come here, and maybe their parents got murdered because of a drone strike that we caused to try to kill the people that are already extreme. We were trying to kill them, but we accidentally killed dozens of civilians. One of those civilians happened to be that person's dad, and he's like, fucking America coming here bombing our country. And they're like, yeah, don't you see? They're the enemy. And they're like, oh, you're right. Like, they killed my family. They're like they're preventing us from having food. They're destroying our economy. We need to do something about that. This is how extremists begin. People don't just say, I want to fucking kill everybody. They kill people because of reasons. There's reasons why people get upset, right? And if you ignore that, if you just think these people are just like crazy lunatics that have no justification for their anger, then you're sorely mistaken. And this is a great tactic that a lot of military has been doing recently, and they're trying to tell Trump, everything you're doing right now is the opposite of how to solve this problem. And they're telling him the best way to kill your enemies is to make them your friends, right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's gonna always be those really top tier extreme people that will never, like, even if you give them, yeah, and those definitely exist, and they're gonna be. Those are the kinds of people that we do have to do something about. But the rest of them, there's a great chance that you can actually persuade them. And when you say, hey, you can't come to our country anymore because you're from these 7 different countries, it's what kind of message are you trying to send out there, right? It's a terrible, terrible. And that was one of the arguments I brought up to my friend because because I was talking to him about the Muslim ban, and he was like, yeah, it makes sense. And I was like, what? What did you say? And he was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, they're terrorists over there. The Muslim religion is like really like about, this type of, he just kept on going on and on. And I was like, bro, nah, that's just not true. And I explained to him, I was like, look, let's just flirt with the idea that he was truly victimizing or focusing on the countries that are truly detrimental to our national security. Then why did he exclude the real people that have actually caused harm to our country? Right? And I was like, also,
let's not forget about like our home terrorism. Like,
yeah, homegrown terrorism is actually the number one problem. Yeah, homegrown terrorism is actually the number one problem. Anyway, yeah, and I just so we can get off the subject, and so we can get back to questions. My point about all this stuff, guys, is that like I've been silent this whole time because I'm upper middle class. Means that I can afford my own health insurance. I can afford my education. I can basically, live a comfortable life with what I do and how I do it, right? So these types of things don't truly affect me. If anything, Trump's going to help me out. He's going to give me tax breaks, right? He's going to bring cheaper, may bring down my premiums for my really expensive healthcare. That's fine. I can still afford potential future surgeries in the future if I needed to, right? But it's not about that. It's like the common folk, man. Like, because I used to be one, right? And I wasn't too long ago where that was the case, right? I know tons of people that are going to be affected by this negatively. So I highly encourage you guys keep fighting the good fight because it's going to affect us all. You guys hear about the net neutrality stuff, right? Danny Phantom.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. The whole net neutrality is.
So basically, if this thing gets out of control, there could be an opportunity, guys, where you guys that are international will be affected. Meaning that maybe they won't let me teach people outside of our country because they'll start controlling more and more who, like these, they'll put more control in the hands of the internet companies. Yeah. Yeah, you think that this shit doesn't affect you guys. It affects everybody. This all of this.
So like, for example, like Robotpencil, they could essentially, like, say you didn't want to pay, a certain amount of money. What they're going to do is slow down speeds to your website.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They could totally do that. And I would have to pay more money. And luckily, I would be able to, and I would if I had to. But I'm going to be fighting that hard,
Even like this website that we're on right now, like if they weren't in cahoots with Comcast or say somebody else had a different internet provider for this.
Yeah, I think you guys are fine though, because I live in California and we're relatively progressive. And so, for instance, like there's a bill that's being set up right now that they're going to build basically California is just divorcing themselves from all this. They're actually looking into creating a single payer healthcare system here, which is great. So that's why I love living here. We're pretty on top of it. And so, yeah, you're right. It's unethical. But do you think these people, this administration gives a damn? Do you think they care? This is why people are in the streets protesting, because some people are not as short-sighted as the other people who are just blind supporters. Until things affect them, then they will start to say, wait a minute. And it's been happening case by case. For instance, there was a Mexican person that was deported in Arizona because of reasons. He was undocumented. But then the community's like, wait. This is like our good friend. This is a guy that runs charity events. He helps put money into the community. Like, this is not just some guy. This is not just some criminal. This is not a bad hombre. This is just like a dude who has been trying to get his documents, but because of our system here in America is just so freaking crazy hard, he hasn't had it yet. My wife just got her legal residency here. Like, she's a citizen now, and it took her almost 2 decades. You understand? It's not, it's the short-sightedness of our brethren here is infuriating. And they can't see it until the shit like literally knocks on the door. And so for me, what had happened, and I'm in no exception. For me, it happened when the Muslim ban went through, because I had friends who were actually affected by it. See, so even I am a victim of this short-sightedness, you know? And so I'm just trying to get other people to be very aware of this. Like, I stopped doing a political post, and then one friend was like, I was asking him like what he thought about what's going on. And he's like, oh, I don't know what's going on. He's like, you're actually you're my source of news. I'm like, really? I was like, oh my gosh. So this demonstrates that if you guys don't share this information, you might be missing out on sharing this information to people that could care less because they don't know any better, right? So I highly recommend you do some research, look into it, because this will affect all of us if we don't do anything about it. America is a huge leading economy in the world's economy. And these corporations are going to try to capsize everything that's been going great for the world, including the internet, right? It doesn't seem like it's going to spread, but it will, man. And it's insane, man. It's so crazy. I can't believe it's happening. What really I can't believe is why people just can't blatantly see what's happening. I mean, I don't know what needs to happen for people to start to be convinced about this stuff. Yeah, that William guy that we were talking about earlier, I talked to him a lot through Messenger, since I don't want to like just go on a crazy argument comment thing in my comment section. I just kind of avoided that. But I basically talked to him and explained that, because he's like kept on talking about the government. I explained to him, you understand the government really doesn't care, and that's the problem. He's like talks about like the government's holding him back. I was like, no, it's not. It really isn't. But they're planning to. And so until that happens, I told him, just don't get sick. You guys who live here in the States, just don't get sick until we get this sorted out. Like, I'm sick and it sucks. Costs lots of money. I have to get another MRI. MRIs are at least $300, $400, even with my health insurance. You guys have $300, $400 lying around? You can just go get an MRI? Well, we're in America, You just go get an MRI. It's easy. You don't have to wait in line or anything. You just got to cough up a couple grand. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have cheap Medicare. So, anywho, any other questions? I know they started off with like, how do you control your visual aesthetic and understanding how to think to super political rant. But I think it's pretty relevant and pretty important. I apologize if I went too far off on the deep end of this. But it really frustrates me, and it's something that I'm actually genuinely passionate about recently. Even though I haven't been posting, I've been doing tons and tons of research. I had somebody post, I haven't checked in lately what he wrote back, if he wrote back at all, but he was saying, well, look, he said Trump just gave $25 billion to black colleges. And I was like, did he? Are you sure about that? And then I think he shared like a CNN like thing or a PBS. And I'm like, fake news? In my head, I was thinking, fake news, right? Aren't these fake news sites? And then I read what he said, and I was like, the colleges are asking for $25 billion. It didn't say that he was going to give it to them. There's something different about asking for money than it is to actually give it, right? And then I looked up the actual executive order that he signed, and it says nothing in there about promising to pay $25 million. It's just a lot of empty promises. The only real things that are going into place are all the immigration and fear mongering. Those are the real policies that are actually doing something. So we're spending money again and policing the world and policing our own communities. It's like, come on, man. You can't see that. Like, I don't know if I can convince you. Wait, what's going on, Lisa? What's that? Are you typing? Wait, what happened for Ahud? What happened? Ahud, I'm Muslim, and my dad prevented me to finish studies there because of Trump. Oh, really? Are you serious? So, like, it literally has affected you already. Are you serious? Oh, well, you can still take classes with me. Trump does not affect me, and even if he tries to, I'll fucking fight him.
Oh my God, can you please illustrate that? I would love
Me
to
fighting
see an
Trump.
Anthony Jones mech against Donald Trump mech. Like, you know that commercial where he's like, the Welcome to America robot, and he's like shooting all the Mexicans over the wall?
Oh,
Have you seen that?
no, I haven't.
It was a Mexico commercial, and they like made him into this big like Terminator robot.
Yeah.
And yeah, you should find him.
Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about what I can do on a visual aspect. But let me tell you something. Let me ask you something, Ahud. Do you feel like you should kill all Americans because we're infidels? Because, Muslim extremism. This is in the Quran, right? You guys are just can't wait to murder us. Oh, what? It's not true? But reasons, though. But isn't it written in that, like, you guys need to kill the infidels? I thought I thought that was a thing. Then why are these people? I don't know. I don't know where I just assumed, right? Because ISIS. That's what they're saying. They need to kill Americans, right? And they keep coming to. Yeah, I obviously don't believe any of this. I'm just trying to make a point. It's just fucking crazy to believe this at all, right?
I'm gonna tell you a story about ISIS actually.
Yeah,
The
please
truth.
educate me because I really don't know much about the Muslim religion, nor do I know much about um, the circumstances in those countries because I haven't been there, seen it, or like live it. But I know one thing: I know Muslims, and they don't seem like they're out to kill us. it seems like it's like the same examples. For instance, the guy who shot the people in Montreal, right? He was a Christian extremist, but nobody wants to bring up Christians, you know, becoming terrorists because it's just generalizations are almost always and historically incorrect, you know? Like
Yeah,
through the
yeah.
test of time, generalizations of whole groups of people have consistently been wrong, you know? And why would it be different in this scenario? Anyways, continue your story. Tell me about it.
No, it's just because Quran actually says like I can practice my religion and you can practice your religion. So there's the conflict, and then there's the media and stuff tells you otherwise. So people start to believe in that, but it's not real. And ISIS actually, they're a group of people which they were in war. They're really poor families, and then I'm not gonna say Americans, but people who fight the countries like Israel, whatever, they approach them and they're like, we're gonna give you food, money, whatever, if you give us your children. And then some people are really
Oh,
really poor, and then they give them the children, and then they take the children into this like a place. There is no TV, no phones, no like they're like isolated, and then they teach them like if you kill yourself
yes,
there, you're gonna go to heaven. And
yes,
then they start to teach them these nonsense shit because they're not connected to the world somehow.
yes,
So they
yes.
they blow stuff and then people think that this is us, but it's just like
Just a very small
forced.
selective few. And look, you're right. You're right about one thing, that poverty and low income spawns crime and spawns hate and negligence. Where if you look at the statistics here in America, we have a disproportionate ratio of black people in prison, but let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what is true, what is consistent amongst all the races that are in prison. That most of these people have like a second to third grade education, right? Like reading level. Like they're not educated and they're very poor, right? And the more, basically, the more poor or the less education you have access to, the more likely you're going to commit crimes. It's just how it is around the world. It's not even like a unique thing to America. So if you really want to fight crime, and if you really want to fight um, this extreme terrorism of all kinds, including the ones abroad and the ones here, right? You got to educate people, right? And you got to find a way to have them make a decent living wage. That is the solution, right? And it's not an easy one. I'm not trying to say that just go ahead and give people jobs. We got it, right? No, it's a two-way street. If you educate people, then you then create an opportunity for them to get jobs. This whole idea of Donald Trump was saying, I'm going to bring jobs back to America. There's already millions and millions of jobs available here in America. Did you guys know that? There's like, I think it was like 5 to 6 million jobs are actually available here in the States. It just happens that most people that are qualified are just out of the state. That's it, or out of the country. It's not that we're trying to outsource it because it's cheaper. There's a lot of truth to that too, but it's like a lot of the best and brightest people that we bring are not from our country alone. It's from people from other countries, you know? And we actually have great educational institutions. We have a lot of terrible ones, but we have a lot of great ones. That's why some people leave their country, come here, learn, and then go back to their country. This is a thing that happens too, right? It's just, so the question is, how do we get our common folk to also have access to this education, right? And the reality is the reason why they can't is because of cost. It's because they don't have money. So it's like this kind of constant, perpetual, vicious cycle where people can't afford good education. And because they can't afford good education, they can't get good jobs. And because they can't get good jobs, then they start to go on to welfare. And because they can't necessarily even get welfare, they have to commit crime, right? Because they can't afford the things. If one of their people in their family gets sick, they have to make the money somehow, right? And a lot of this, it goes back to like your country. You just said it. There's people that are poor and they can't afford food, so that they have to do something, almost the most atrocious thing ever, which is give their children away. But they have to. Maybe they have 6 other children they have to take care of. So sacrificing one child for the greater good makes sense. It's a sucky position to be in, right? The terrible, terrible. Like if I was really, really poor and my family's out on the street, and someone told me that they'll give me tons of food and supply me with food for a lifetime for the rest of my family, if they just told me if they could just have my unborn son. It's easy for me to say no to that now because I have privileges and I have wealth, right? But what if I didn't? I don't know what kind of person I would be then or what kind of answer I would have then. And that's the problem. That's this whole situation. And these people who are super far right they're just not compassionate. They just can't see past their own fucking reflection, right? And it's unfortunate, and it's that lack of compassion that causes more and more hate and more crime and more poverty, because it's like, well, you got to figure it out on your own. It's like, nah, man, that's not how it works. We help each other out. Because how a single payer health insurance, for instance, works is that you have the healthy pay in early. They pay like a little bit more taxes, or they contribute their taxes during that time, and that means that a lot of their money goes to people that are getting sick, right? And if you're not sick now, that's fine. And you're thinking, well, why am I paying for money now? Because I'm not sick. It's a hindsight type of paying system, right? Because all that taxes that go into the system, eventually, when you are old and sick, the young people are paying for your health. You see how that works? It's just how a family dynamic works. When I get old, like when my parents have gotten old, I try to help out and take care of them. And now then when I get old, my kids will come and take care of me. This is how it works. This is how communities have worked for eons. And once you start taking away this kind of ideology and start saying, no, everybody's on their own all the time, humanity would have not gotten as far as it did if it had that way of thinking. You know, one of the most dangerous and most evilest people that have been considered in history, Genghis Khan, the reason why he was so successful at murdering countless amounts of people was not because he was a crazy lunatic. It's because he was able to put together the steppe people. He was able to bring together this community of people that were always in war with one another. And then when he fought and took over other nations, he basically had a very strict standard. He said, either you give up or we burn your city to the ground. And people were like, oh, we're not going to give up. All right, city burned to the ground. And he would just do it. But if you said, yeah, we'll give up, then he'd be like, all right, cool, no harm, no foul, right? And then he would take over, and he would find the greatest minds, he'd find the engineers and the greatest architects, and he would have them teach their people. Even if you had different religions and different ideologies, he didn't care if you were a great mind or soldier. It didn't matter to him. All that mattered was that there was unity and there's a very clear message of power and authority, right? So even the most craziest authoritarians, what they did the best was bring together fighting factions. That's what Hitler did, right? So even the worst of the worst, the reason why they had so much power is because they brought people together, you know? Even if it was from the most malicious intent, because that's how you can't get people to work together, then nothing's gonna get done. And that's why I'm really hoping that's happening with Trump. I think more and more people are starting to turn their heads and be like, wait a minute, you know? And if that's the case, then he won't never be able to do any of these terrible things he wants to do, because people will fucking fight him, even his greatest and most undying supporters. And like I said, you obviously for benevolent stuff have been accomplished when people come together. Very rarely is this like, yeah, let's build this house. No, I'm gonna do it by myself. What? Oh, all right. you know, like case in point, we got some extra furniture because we were moving stuff around. My son and my wife built two things in the time that I built one thing. Right? It's just how it works. You know, can things be done by yourself? Of course. But is it the best route? No, not really. And so, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that your father feels really discouraged about this whole situation. And now yet another person that I know that's involved by this stuff negatively. And thank you for sharing some more insight. Where are you from exactly? Uhud? Hello?
Oh, from Qatar.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I have no idea where that's at.
Next to Dubai.
Oh, okay. I have a better clue now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some students who wanted to bring us to India. And so I know that's not necessarily, they're on all connected. I'm just saying, like, where we're going to go over there. I really still want to go.
To Dubai?
Yeah, Dubai would be cool.
Yeah, Dubai is really cool.
Yeah, super, super nice. They have like a indoor like ski resort, and it's like
Yeah,
in the
they
middle
have.
of the desert. It's freaking crazy. Yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been around, like like a lot of people, like this whole Russia thing, for instance, like this same argument was brought up to me, was like, well, you think Russia's like the boogeyman? It's like, no, I don't. I actually just think Putin is a boogeyman, right? And it's not like we have had the best relationship with Russia. You know, did you forget about the Cold War? You know, there was like a very shaky agreement that was made because of that, right? And the agreement was the idea that we don't want to create a nuclear holocaust, okay? And so, you know, it's important. And you know, I don't even think it's that nefarious what's going on with Trump and Russia. I think it's actually very, very simple. I think Trump had a business deal with Putin, and that's it. It's all about money. It's not about dethroning the government or like capsizing our democrat or democracy. It's about just money for Trump. I think it's that simple. I don't think it's anything dubious beyond that. I think he's just a goddamn greedy motherfucker, an incompetent one as well. Right? And he might owe them lots of money. I think it's that simple. I don't think it's anything other than that. So anywho, any questions? Oh man, I didn't sleep well at all last night. I drank like a glass of Gatorade before I went to bed. I think that was a mistake. Those electrolytes might have kept me up. No questions? Well, I appreciate you guys' putting up with all my chatter about politics. I know it's not necessarily artistically related, but I do believe that a lot of what is happening now is affecting a lot of people negatively, and I'm very passionate about it. But I do apologize if I went too political. Every so often I do that. But yeah, I'll take one last question and we'll roll out. I need to pack up and get going. I need to go to the office today.
Alyssa said, how did you find your niche?
Oh, great question. The best way to do that is just to paint a lot and then use a lot of reference that you're basically inspired by. Yeah, no worries. I get it. So for instance, like I have like several different artists that I'm inspired by, and I'm just a collection of those seven different artists. Like if you think about it like this, like the way that you were raised, like the country, the states, the county, like the people that you surround yourself, reflects how you talk, like the kind of words that you use, and the kind of phrases that you say, and the accent that you may have acquired. And so having a style is very similar to that. Do you understand that sentiment? Yeah, so like if you were to just like mix your stuff with like Ruin Jaya meets Ruin Jaya meets Phil Hale or something like that, that could be a cool style, you know? And that's really what it comes down to. The problem that I think happens is that people will pick one artist or maybe two artists that are similar, or like all the artists that they choose are very similar to one another. So then like their style just looks like a cheaper version of those said artists. Makes sense? When I first started teaching, I noticed that it was happening. I was like teaching people, but then I was almost making it so that people would have their styles would just end up looking a lot like something that I would do, which you might think, well, that's great. That's something that I want to do. Like I want to achieve that kind of same quality. But the problem was that's the problem, that everybody just painted like me, and I realized that doesn't bring you guys any really quantifiable value. You want to have artwork that says who you are, not what you want to pretend to be, right? And if you do that, you'll have better opportunities too, because then you'll basically have people coming for you because of your work that is unique to you. You're the only person that can provide that work. Does that make sense? But there's nobody who's truly unique, like that has like a style that nobody, like that just came out of nowhere. It's just a product of what you surround yourself with. Does this help? Any other questions? How is GTC, by the way, before I let you guys go? How is it, Alyssa? Yeah? Have you hung out with other Robotpencilers? And if so, who? That's funny. Yeah, I told him to yell at you, but I was just joking. Wait, what else? Yeah, you can go without spending too much money. That's what, actually, if you use the community, that's what a lot of people have actually done. They will kind of talk to each other online, and then they'll put together like a plan, and sometimes they'll get like an Airbnb or a hostel together. It'll cover the cost dramatically. Yeah, couch stuff. Or couch surf. Yes, that works too. That's what I usually do. I usually just go to Kalen's house and just stay at his place. I don't even get a hotel. One time I got like a thousand. I spent like $1,000 on like a hotel suite for 2 days. It was nice, but it was expensive. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this again. All right, I'm gonna call it. Any last questions before? Yeah, I have some students actually that work at high res, right? Like Mark. I think he's still there. What's the meaning of life? Well, to me, the meaning of life is relatively simple. I think the meaning of life is to just live a life where day by day you're doing what makes you happy. And I don't think that necessarily means like living a really good career or making lots of money or being extremely successful. It could be as simple as helping others. It could be as simple as helping your friends or staying committed to the people that you love. These types of things. Because every day that you live is a gift, because any day you could just die. Like literally something can happen to you. And so if you're chasing for the meaning, then I don't think you'll ever find it. But if you just say, hey, what am I doing today? Am I happy today? If I go to bed, will I be happy with what's going on? And it doesn't have to be every single day, obviously. But if you can just kind of have an average that's in the ballpark of almost all the time you're happy, then you'll live a much happier life. And you won't have to worry about questions. I know you were just joking, but to be sincere about this, you won't be asking questions like, how do I fulfill my life? Because you already feel fulfilled. There's a really great passage that kind of reflects this idea from this Jewish lady who survived the Holocaust, and she said that the last thing that she ever said to her brother was like, "You idiot, well, you're supposed to stand in this line." I guess they were in line and they got divided, and she was screaming at him and said that he was an idiot and he made the wrong choice. And she wasn't doing it in a heartful way. She just was doing it in like oh, my little brother, what an idiot. And you know how the Holocaust turned out. She obviously had no clue how bad it was going to be or get. And she never saw her brother again. Her brother didn't survive. And so she said, from there on out, the last thing that she'll ever say to anybody, she always thinks about, because she might realize she'll never see that person again. And it's just a good reflection of this idea that life is very fickle, and the things you say and do, you want to make sure they're important at some level, and so that way you live with less regrets in your life and you live with more happiness. And that's it. Hope that helps. Peace out, friends. Thanks for yeah, thanks for chilling, everyone. Listen to my extreme political views. I don't think they're extreme. I think they're extremely rational. And so with that, laters, have a great weekend. I'll talk to you guys next week. Peace out. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.